The Amish, a unique ethno-religious group that continues to resist much of the modern industrial world. When we think of the Amish, often images of horse and buggies, farms, beards, old-fashioned plain clothing come to mind. The Amish have been a subject of fascination for mainstream society for some decades now. Yet in spite of this fascination, the general public remains somewhat ignorant of who the Amish really are. For instance, outsiders often imagine the Amish to be a type of monolith with the same regulations from community to community. However, this couldn't be further from the truth. Among the Amish, there are various sects and subsects, with new ones constantly being founded even to this day. There is no one way to be Amish. These groups often arise from schisms over just how much of the conveniences of modern technological society should be allowed among its members, and other distinctives. Thus, there are Amish who allow running water, others that don't. Amish that allow men to wear one suspender strap as opposed to two. Amish that allow reflectors on the back of their buggies, and many other particularities. And yes, among these groups are Amish that even allow their members to drive automobiles. In this video, we will give a brief overview of these peculiar car-driving Amish. Before starting, it is necessary to give at least some historical background to the Amish in general. The Amish are an Anabaptist group founded by Jacob Amann in 1693 in Switzerland. Amann thought the Mennonites of his time were becoming too modern and lax in their discipline, thus he instigated a schism that gave birth to a new group. A big issue was the treatment of those who had fallen away. Whereas the preacher Hans Reist believed the fallen away should only be barred from receiving communion, not regular meals, Amann believed such individuals should be banned even from common meals. Those who sided with Reist would form what has come to be known as the Swiss Mennonite Conference, and it is from Amann that the Amish get their name. It is in the early 18th century that the Amish, along with Mennonites and other German peoples, especially from the Palatinate region, began to migrate to the New World, particularly to the then colony of Pennsylvania. The Northkill Amish settlement in what is Berks County was the location of the first Amish settlement, making it the oldest Amish settlement in the Americas. It was established in the 1740s and will remain the largest Amish settlement into the 1780s before it began to decline. Amish from there would migrate to found communities in Lancaster and Somerset counties. It is in Somerset County where the Beachy Amish, a group that uses automobiles, would be born. But before getting to them, we must discuss the overarching Amish Mennonite movement in which they are a part of. Between 1862 and 1878, yearly Dienerversammlungen, or ministerial conferences, were held at different places concerning how the Amish should deal with the tensions caused by the pressures of modern society. Not only did these conferences seek to address the pressing questions of the age in relation to the Amish communities, but sought to organize official collaboration between the disparate, far-flung communities. However, the very act of having these conferences caused some controversy among some. Some of the more conservative-minded bishops began to boycott the conferences outright. The groups headed by these bishops became what we would come to refer to as Old Order. When people envisage the typical Amish, it is the Old Order Amish to whom they are usually referring. Those who leaned more toward the progressive spectrum became collectively known as Amish Mennonite. Most of these Amish Mennonite groups in the succeeding decades would shed their Amish identity and fully assimilate into the Mennonite denominations. Thus, we will focus on the main Amish Mennonite groups that have retained an Amish identity till this day. In 1847, John D. Kauffman was born to an Amish family in Logan County, Ohio, later moving with his parents to Elkhart County, Indiana. After the limited schooling that Amish children go through, he joined the Amish Mennonite Church, married, and became a farmer. Kauffman was struck with illness, suffering a stroke, which left the left side of his face limp and numb. It is said that during this time, in 1880, he began preaching on Wednesdays in a trance-like state. The Mennonite periodical Herald of Truth reported on the 15th of May, 1882, that he preached together with a Noah Troyer, another Amish sleeping preacher, as such preachers were called, Kauffman first, Troyer after, for 2 hours each. In 1907, after coming into conflict with the local church, he moved to Shelbyville, Illinois, founding his own church there, and was ordained a bishop in 1911. Thus is the birth of the Kauffman Amish. These Amish drive cars, although compared to other Amish Mennonite groups, they have retained to a greater degree a stereotypical Amish identity and practice. For example, they have largely retained the Pennsylvania German dialect, or Pennsylvania Deutsch, which they also use during their church services. Men tend to wear longer beards than the men of other Amish Mennonite groups, although buttons are used on lapel coats as opposed to the hooks and eyes prevalent among the Old Order Amish. Their founder, John D. Kauffman, is regarded as authoritative, and his preaching, which is considered spirit preaching, is often cited in sermons. The group practices shunning, or Meidung, much like other Amish groups. Today, there are over 3,000 Kauffman Amish Mennonites across 7 states. The largest Amish Mennonite group, and thus the largest group of Amish who drive cars, are the Beachy Amish. This group receives its name from a Moses M. Beachy. Beachy was an Old Order Amish bishop in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. A division in that community arose when the Beachy faction favored milder discipline towards those who left to join other Anabaptist churches, as well as being more permissive of technological advancements, such as the automobile. Early on, most cultural and religious practices of the Old Order Amish were retained among the Beachies. For example, German was still used in church services, and off Sundays for visiting was common practice. A transformation, however, would take place in the mid-20th century. It is in the mid-20th century when the Beachies became more revivalistic and evangelical. This was in part due to more evangelical-type defectors from other Amish groups joining, as well as Amish coming into contact with other Protestants through the civilian public service during World War II. Also, in the 1950s, Protestant revivalism swept through America, and even some Anabaptists influenced by the trend began to have their own revivals, including the Amishman David A. Miller of Oklahoma, who would later join the Beachy Amish. Due to this more evangelical approach, the Beachy Amish have more converts from non-Anabaptist backgrounds as compared to other Amish Mennonite groups, and they have churches and missions in other countries as well, such as El Salvador, Belize, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Paraguay, Ireland, Ukraine, Romania, Kenya, Australia, Ethiopia, and Canada. Some similarities between the Beachy and Old Order Amish are that the women wear head coverings, married men usually have beards, television and radio are forbidden, and excommunications still occur, though they are far less common. Ways in which they differ from the Old Order Amish is in that they meet in church buildings rather than homes for Sunday religious services. They have Sunday schools and Bible schools. Services are in English. Ownership of automobiles, of course. Filtered internet is accessible to some. Men wear ready-made clothes. And most do not speak Pennsylvania Dutch, though in regards to language, some mention ought to be made of a subgroup of Beachy Amish. As mentioned earlier, in the mid-20th century, the Beachy Amish began to become more evangelical in practice. Many Beachy Amish who wanted to resist these changes began to break off in the 1960s. These began to be referred to as Old Beachy Amish. In contrast to other Beachy Amish, they have retained the use of Pennsylvania German, which they also use in church services, much like the previously mentioned Kauffman Amish Mennonites. The dress standards are also more or less as strict as the Old Order Amish. While, like the others, they use electricity, cars, and telephones, their automobiles must be the color black, and they do not allow microwaves or answering machines. According to Donald Kraybill, in his Concise Encyclopedia of Amish, Brethren, Hutterites, and Mennonites, the old Beachy Amish are similar in lifestyle to the Old Order Amish. All in all, mainstream Beachy Amish, along with the old Beachy Amish, number just under 10,000 at the time of this recording. As one can see, there are many Amish that don't fit into the mainstream stereotypical concept of what it means to be Amish, precisely because there is no one way of being Amish. The Amish, far from being a single monolithic group, are a collection of various groups with their own unique practices. While there are obvious differences between them, there are also obvious shared motifs and practices which in some sense unite them. The Amish groups continue to adapt to the different contexts which arise, and indeed new subgroups will continue to form as a result. Perhaps if there's interest in the topic, I may make a video covering the main different groups of Amish in general. But until then, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like it if you liked it and share any feedback in the comments section. And until next time.